7-step code. I'm really excited to share this with you. Step one is hold a clear vision. We have where we are, the now. Then we have our future desired version of ourselves. We want to close that gap between where we are today and that version of ourselves we want to bring into our reality. The best way and the most important way to do this is to start to find out, who is that version of myself? What do they identify as? What do they believe? What habits did they have to do to get there? These tend to be questions we don't always ask ourselves. Or we look at what were their habits. If we're looking at weight loss, for example, often that person knows I need to eat better and go to the gym or to train more. But we want to go deeper than that. We want to look at, okay, if you want to do those two things, what else did you have to believe in order to get there? What did you have to think in order to be that person? We want to go into the layers beyond that surface level. I just need to do this habit. We also want to be thinking, where have we had resistance or blocks around? What do we need to let go of and release? What burdens, what pain have we been carrying, suppressing, or avoiding that actually we need to start taking a look at? Because the desired future version of yourself is going to feel a lighter version of who you are today, because we want to heal and release stuff that has been holding us back. One of my clients literally just messaged me being like, hey, you'll never guess what? I got a better job, been promoted, and I've got another pay rise. We just did 3 months of coaching. This is when we want to start to think about how quickly can change actually happen. When we started, he was just not in a very good place. He was stuck in a grief pattern from the last few years. He was feeling like a failure as a father, as a parent, and as a partner. He was stuck in a career he really disliked, earning not very good money. He was always comparing to his wife, who ran a very successful company. What we did was look at, who do you want to be? He was like, I want to have like maybe a 5K pay rise. I was like, let's go a bit further and get you 10. So who is this 50K version of yourself? What did they have to do, think, believe, feel, and all that kind of thing? Who are they? Then how can you step into that version of yourself every single day? All of a sudden, we went from a lack of clarity to a lot of clarity. That enables us to start realizing, well, now it's easier. We know the steps we need to take to be that version of ourselves. We can close the gap much quicker. Within a year, he'd landed a new job, company he loved, much better positive working environment. He got a 22K pay rise. And within another year, he's got another promotion with an even better pay packet. This is a very short amount of time, and it was something he didn't believe was possible. But because we put in that belief that he can be this person, that he can achieve these things, every day we were able to do that 1% change that added up to this big change and transformation in his life. And I want you to start thinking, what is one thing I need to identify as in order to be that version of myself? For him, for example, he had to be 50K Bob. I am 50K Bob. I just watched Rowan Atkinson, which is why Bob is now on my mind, and it sounds hilarious when I'm saying it. But that is an identity. An I am statement is an identity statement. It's how we really think about ourselves when we come to just how important identities are in just a moment. Have a think, what one identity is going to serve my future version? It could be, I am a great leader, because maybe we've been doubting ourselves around that. Or I am a brilliant athlete, or I am getting better and better every single day. It can be absolutely anything. It could just be that I am a person who loves my life. On the flip side, where I see identities holding those back, is when we say I am an anxious person. I am a person with a chronic illness. I'm a bad leader. These identities we really want to become aware of and start to create change around, because they are influencing your reality in an unhelpful way. The next one we want to look at is, what did that future version of yourself have to believe? So what one belief in the next 30 days would you love to let go of, or would you love to install? Beliefs can show up in different ways. Very simply, I believe this about myself. I believe I'm a great leader, or I believe I can succeed in this area of my life. I believe I can lose weight. I believe I can win this race. So you want to be thinking, what one belief does this version of myself have? Or what one belief do they not? Maybe you don't believe change can happen quickly. Maybe you believe actually change can happen very slowly and it's going to be really hard for you and it may not happen. These are the kind of beliefs we want to start watching out for, these sticky things that can trip us up. I want you to think about what one self-talk phrase or word do you not want to let pass you. We're going to cover this again in the next step, but just start thinking about this future desired version of yourself and what one phrase would they think or not think. For example, when I had chronic fatigue syndrome, I was always like, ugh, I'm so tired. So for me, tiredness, that's not in my future. Energy was. Maybe you think of yourself as a negative person or a pessimist. You want to remove that belief, start talking to yourself more positively. Maybe there's a catchphrase you say to yourself, or it could be very simple. When someone goes, hey, how are you? You go, I'm okay. You could actually say, I'm great, or you could be honest. I don't know it in Norwegian, but I did learn a phrase which I kind of love and literally summed up 2024 for me is I am standing up, but I am not crying. I love that phrase because it's sad and funny at the same time. The last one is what habit or what one behavior would you like to change or stop doing or start doing in the next 30 days? This could be that you want to have a more consistent bedtime or you just want to wake up and feel excited for the day ahead. Maybe you want to eat more vegetables every day. It can be anything. We want to start to really roadmap that version of you out. And then you want to be thinking, how can you every day step into that version of yourself? For example, I have the best boss ever mug down here because I have a client at the moment who does not have the best boss ever. So that mug made me chuckle. We have been doing work around when met with a challenging situation with her toxic boss, how can she still step into her personal power and show up as her best self in those challenging situations. Being our desired future version, we can look at all the ways it's going to be marvelous and fantastic, and our life is going to be full of unicorns and rainbows. But also looking at our future version, we can be thinking, how do they handle challenging situations? My client wants to stay in her job because she really enjoys her team and believes the company can succeed. It's really important that we start to experiment and really fine tune strategies that enable her to step into that version of herself every day. Step 2, mastering your self-talk. The guy in white is called Alan Hovda. He is a Norwegian triathlete. This was taken some years ago now, actually, at the top of a mountain called Gaustatoppen in Norway, and the views are absolutely amazing. When I first started working with Alan, he described his language as whip language because it was so unhelpful and unperformance enhancing, that's not a word. It derailed his performance. He'd be running and then he'd hit this wall, there'd be this pain barrier, and he would just be beating himself up. So even when he had a 20-minute lead in this race, he was like, I'm gonna fail, I'm too slow, I'm really bad at this, I'm in so much pain. I'm never going to win, I'm going to lose. And this was all of his narrative. We lost his 22-minute lead to less than 2 minutes. We worked on him mastering his self-talk. The results were absolutely outstanding. Suddenly, he was breaking the Norwegian Ironman course record twice. He was knocking 5 minutes off his Norseman time, which he'd already competed in 10 times and won 3 times. He came second at the World Championships for extreme triathlon, and he took a whopping 40 minutes off another race record and set a new course record at the same time. He was first out of the water for the first time in his career. These results really came from him changing his self-talk. When he noticed he was going into that whip language again, where he was thinking to himself how badly he was performing, we ensured he changed it to I'm actually doing really well. I'm feeling strong. I'm feeling comfortable. I can keep going. I'm strong. I am doing the best I can. We switched his focus from winning or losing to just showing up as his best version. He was talking to himself constantly in ways that served him. He finished his races feeling satisfied with his performance because he knew he laid everything out on the course every time, which is what he wanted. When we are stuck in this unhelpful feedback loop, 9 times out of 10, it starts with your thoughts, with your language. We might be thinking all of the things that could go wrong with the situation. We can compare ourselves to others. We think that we're a stressed person, we're not good enough, we're going to fail, I can't do this. All of these unhelpful thoughts create or activate more feelings associated with this unhelpful language. More thoughts create more feelings, create more thoughts. Then what happens is these stuck thoughts or these unhelpful thoughts influence your choices, decisions, behaviors, and experiences. And then we have more unhelpful thoughts, more unhelpful feelings because we're beating ourselves up or we're proving to ourselves that I told you it was going to fail. Of course it did. Of course this always happens to me. I can never do this, or I'll never be good enough, or I'll always be stressed. There's no other option. I'm just this anxious person and there's nothing else for me to do about this. That activates our neural pathways. So then they get better, faster, and stronger at their job, creating anxiety, creating not good enough, creating things around failure, because your brain is rebuilding itself for you to think, feel, and act in these automatic ways. So your future becomes a return of your past. And you can even, and this sounds a bit strange, but you can even get addicted to these kind of feelings. It can become comfortable and familiar to you. You can see this in people who really dig their heels in when it comes to creating change, because this is safe. Although it sucks, it's safe. And creating change can be scary. It's uncomfortable. This is our stuck feedback loop. And you might already start to think, yes, I can see how I can get in this loop. I want you to stop, break that, blow that all apart, and enter the thriving feedback loop. The reason I used stop is because that is one of the best words you can use to start creating change. When you notice an unhelpful thought come in, you can say, stop. That powerful word will give you pause and time to think, what do I want to think and feel instead? It gives you choice. That's really important because then we can start to think, actually, I'm getting stronger and more confident at this thing. You're thinking about all the reasons, all the things that this situation could go very well. You're thinking how great you are or how you're getting better and better at something. You're thinking, actually, I can overcome this because of X, Y, and Z. I can do this. I have got this. I am a capable person, or I am a nice person. These thoughts activate more helpful feelings. They then influence your choices, decisions, behaviors, habits, actions, responses. That creates more feelings and thoughts. So suddenly, life and performance enhancing stuff is flooding into your life. This is influencing your brain. So now your brain is rewiring for you to think, feel, and act in this new performance and life enhancing way. These neural pathways are getting stronger. It's easier, more natural for you to think, feel, and act in this way. Then you get into this wonderful, thriving feedback loop. This is why it's so important to master your self-talk, so you can move yourself out of stuckness or out of just less than brilliant situations into feelings, into thoughts that actually empower you, inspire, energize, and help you to create a life you love. Just really think, what one thought will you not let pass you by in the next 30 days? What one unhelpful thought do you want to become really aware of so you can stop it? Because we need to become aware of how we're thinking in order to start being like, oh, wow, actually, I'm thinking really good. Or actually, I want to change this. What's really interesting is when we start to look at words, always often indicates a belief because we're giving a time parameter. I said I always undercharge. This means, if we take the sentence literally, that there is never a time when I charge my value. So when I said that sentence, A, it was incorrect, but B, it's indicating there is still a belief there that maybe I don't believe I'm good enough to charge my value. This is where we can start to dissect our language and also start to change it. Because when we are always at something that's unhelpful, it means there isn't another option for us to respond or to act or behave in a different way. We want to start noticing where we're saying always and actually maybe want to say sometimes, because we can start to break down that belief that this thing always happens. It's really good to start to remove always from the vocabulary and start to think, what do I want to think and believe or be instead. If we're getting stuck around evidence, and I've completely been there myself, whereas look at all this evidence though, our brain is highlighting to us all of those times because this has been our narrative. We have to very consciously go back in time, start to really spot even the smallest thing when we didn't overcharge. I have examples of when I've charged my worth. My brain is still just skipping over it sometimes. It's important to go back and be like, when did I not do that thing? When did I have energy? We don't want to always be doing something that is unhelpful. We want to start to break that pattern down. Step 3, oh, very appropriate, breaking free from limits. We have a hierarchy of change, or a pyramid of change. At the top of our pyramid of change, we have identities, then we have beliefs, and then we have thoughts, behaviors, and habits. Now, what often happens when we start to want to create positive change in our life, and a lot of the teachings from various experts is around thoughts, behaviors, and habits. They always start at the bottom. Again, I'm just going to use the fitness industry as an example because it's the easiest one. People are often creating a narrative that if you're not losing weight, it's because you're not trying hard enough. You should just go to the gym more. Or if you do want to lose weight and you're doing well, it's because you're going to the gym more. You train a lot, you eat really well. They think in order to lose weight, to get fitter, it's as simple as doing one of those two things more. But where we can have a lot of resistance, challenges, and blocks, where some people find it much harder than others, is because there will be a belief and or identity guiding how easy it is for them to create change. I've had 2 clients in the last couple of years. One of them had knee surgery and she was told that unless she lost weight, rehab is completely pointless. That created stuff for her. Another client wanted to lose weight for that year. She'd always struggled. It'd been a lifelong thing, grown up in an overweight family and just really struggled. For both of these clients, we went layer by layer and we looked at, okay, what are your identities around who you are that is influencing your relationship around your body, food, and training. Often we get stuck in this belief that if I look a certain way, then I will love myself more. Again, that's an unhelpful belief. It's like a domino effect. If you change an identity, often that will domino down or ripple out into beliefs, thoughts, behaviors, and habits. Because suddenly, if you stop identifying as a fat person or an overweight person, which clients have identified as, and you start to identify as a sexy athlete, which they then chose, which I love, all of a sudden it becomes much easier to be an athlete because that is who you are. I've had a client believe that they've had a fat gene, highly intelligent person. I was like, do you believe that there is a fat gene? And if you have it, your only option is to be overweight? She was like, the moment I said it, I realized how ridiculous it was. But this belief had governed almost 50, 60 years of her life. That belief influenced her choices and decisions every single day. It's really important that we start to look at what identities and beliefs are limiting you. How can they be healed? Sometimes it's just acknowledging them. Then what do we want to believe and identify as instead? How can we start stepping into that? How can we start making them our reality? The triathlete I mentioned earlier, Alan Hovda, I couldn't believe it when he told me this, and maybe you'll have the same reaction, but he said to me that I am a slow swimmer. And I was like, Alan, you're a professional triathlete. You're insanely quick. And he was like, no, I'm a really slow swimmer. So we had to break this belief and identity because it was I am, and then all the different reasons why he believed he was. The first thing we did was open the door to change, was to compare his swim times to other pro athletes' swim times, especially those he competed against. Suddenly he was like, maybe I'm not that slow. We started to look at when did these beliefs form. It was when he started to learn to swim. It was a very challenging situation. So we healed that kind of emotional trauma around that time. The next day, he was first out of the water for the first time ever in his career in a pro race. This is how powerful it can be to change your identities and beliefs and how quick of an impact it can have. Because suddenly believing and knowing he was a fast swimmer meant that he acted and felt a fast swimmer. When he's thinking about the swim, he's thinking how great it's going to go, how strong he is, how brilliant he is. He's focusing on his technique. During the swim, his mindset is honed on how great he is, how powerful he is, how strong, how fast he's going. He's really in the moment and focused on performance. So of course, you perform perform better, you become faster. This is why it's really important that when we look at creating change, we're not always looking at thoughts, behaviors, and habits, but also looking at beliefs and identities. It can be a very simple question to ask ourselves is what belief is governing this behavior, or what do I believe about myself around this behavior or around this thought? Why do I believe that? We want to go down deeper from the surface level stuff, because the first thing we say often isn't the thing, it's the thing that protects us from knowing what the thing is, if this makes sense. We're going to set our 30-day goal tomorrow, then be thinking, where do I need to create change first? Because if your goal is to create a pay rise, for example, maybe you want a new job in 2025 or a new adventure, whatever your goal may be, think, actually, where do I need to create change first? Often we might be thinking it's around a habit, but maybe actually we need to change an identity or belief for the habit to become an effortless and easy extension of who we are. Step 4 is aligning your habits and behaviors. So again, we have our future desired version of ourselves. We are here now. We want to be thinking, what habits did they do and didn't they do to achieve that version of themselves? How did they behave? How didn't they behave? We're often thinking, oh, I have to do X, Y, and Z, and our list can come insurmountable about all the things we need to do. But maybe the most powerful thing for you to focus on is one thing to stop doing. One thing to stop doing is scrolling on Instagram or binge watching Netflix. Maybe that's just your one focus for the next 30 days, because you know your future version of yourself isn't addicted to tech. One thing that you want to start doing is protecting 20 minutes during your work hours to go outside, just go for a walk and soothe your nervous system. One of my clients is doing so amazing, and she knows that the future version of herself prioritizes one of her favorite hobbies, which is karate. Now, karate on a Tuesday and a Thursday is a non-negotiable for her. This is a big thing. She has a really hectic job. We're reducing her doing stress around it, but it's just a fast-paced, high-pressure environment. We can't change the environment, but we can change the way she responds. She has a family at home. We often forget this, but in order to show up as our best self for the ones we love, we need to look after ourselves first so we can give them more of our love energy and a better attitude and mindset. She is able twice a week now to go to karate, and once a week is the minimum. She is now protecting that time. She's already gone up a belt, which is super cool. Another client of mine knew that the desired future version of herself lived in Barcelona and ate healthy. She defined what healthy was. Then it was looking at, okay, where am I now? How do I get there? We looked at beliefs and identities and healing that. And the next day she was like, oh, eating healthy is actually really enjoyable for me now. That was one thing she wanted to become more conscious around, was eating better and eating food that really supported herself and her family. Then eventually it was like, I want to live in Barcelona. I want to move the whole family there. My partner wants to do that as well. And road mapping out, how is that possible? Then they were able to do that. Having this version of ourselves means that we can start actually working out, what steps do I need to take to make this possible? It's not just a daydream anymore. It can actually be a real thing that happens. We want to commit to self-accountability. This is a game changer for my clients, whether it's once a week or every single day. That client who got 50K pay rise and now has another wonderful pay packet coming along his way, we did it every single day. In the morning, before he started work, he'll sit at his desk and be like, what 1 to 3 things will I do to stay focused today? What 1 to 3 tasks are my priority today? If I start to procrastinate, what will I do next? Because although we're looking at how can we step into this amazing version of ourselves, research has also shown, it was a really interesting study actually, The Power of Habit, highly recommend, brilliant book. And one of the studies in there was around those who had hip replacements. They used the group who always had the worst recovery. They showed that if they had a plan how to get around that pain point, that they would perform better and recover at this brilliant rate. It's really important when we do our accountability is to point our brain in the right direction to set ourselves up for success, and also to know, okay, actually, I usually procrastinate or I get really tired around this time. What can I do when I hit that snag? How can I jump over that pothole? Another really great thing about self-accountability is it means that we're not reliant on others to tell us how well or how badly we are doing. This is external validation, relying on others. It can be a necessary part of our work or our life, but it's really important to stand in your power, be responsible for yourself, and start to look at your own reality, become self-aware to yourself so you can actually be more rooted, grounded in how well you're doing. Sometimes we get all these opinions thrown at us that aren't necessarily true. Is that person's version of truth, not necessarily your own. When you have self-accountability, you can pick and choose what is helpful to bring into your reality and what isn't. You want to be thinking, how can I keep myself accountable to this version of myself? If you want to lose weight, my client decided that the one thing she had to do every day was review her food plan. At the end of the day, she'd review it on a scale of 1 to 10, how well did I stick to my food plan? Okay, it was an 8. How can it be a 9 tomorrow? We're able to consistently step into the best version of ourselves, become aware of when we've jumped off the bandwagon. We can get ourselves back on much quicker. Remember that peak performance, it's a journey. Being accountable to ourselves is a big part of that journey to becoming our best self, which is always an evolving and ever-growing person. Remember how your words impact your reality, impact your brain. You want to be using the right words in your accountability to get the results you want. One pro athlete I remember reading years ago, I was horrified, was rating multiple times a day injury pain on a scale of 1 to 10. The problem with this is that you're now activating the pain response. The more you activate the pain response, the more pain you're feeling. If you are realizing that you're always on an 8, a 9, or a 10, your brain is thinking nothing but pain, and you will be in nothing but pain. It's really important, instead of asking how much pain are you in or how much pain am I in, you want to ask how much discomfort am I in, because the brain just hears comfort. Then you can actually help yourself recover better. You want to be asking yourself the right powerful questions to get the results you want. The next step is celebrating every milestone. That's probably the most funnest part of peak performance, is we can celebrate ourselves. You might be thinking I'm talking about celebrating those big, huge goals when we get the promotion, but actually I ask my clients every week, what 3 or more things have you done well this week? Then they write them all down. And what is really cool is I ask for 3 things, and sometimes they might struggle to just put 1 thing down. But the more they work with me, the more they start to train their brain to look at all of the wonderful and amazing things they are doing, the more they are able to write down, because they are training their brain to look for these amazing moments that happen in your life and also create. Then it's thinking, how can I celebrate this? It could be that you actually prioritized your tasks really well. You sent an uncomfortable email, celebrate our progress, because it's just creating more momentum, moments of joy. These little things make the difference between being our old self and then being our great self. It's the small things that can really add up. We have this compound interest effect. This 1% change is what we're looking for. We want to be training our brain every day by celebrating and honoring our progress. It could be with a great cup of coffee, treat yourself to chocolate, or maybe at the end of the week, you take your family or loved one out for dinner or to a fun thing you want to do. It is all about the journey. We have to enjoy our life along the way and remember to play, to laugh, and to love, as corny as that sounds. The final step is connecting to nature. I'm not going to go into why you need to connect with nature. I feel we're all here because we know it's amazing and it's super fun. What I would like you to think about is, how can you connect to nature? How can you get outside every day and have fun? Often when we're doing stress, unhappiness, we're doing just life can be a bit crap or challenging, this is the first thing to go. But actually, it should be the first thing that stays, is prioritizing our self-care. Nature is so important for this. It could be that you protect 20 minutes of your day to get out into nature, go for a walk, to ground yourself, become more present in nature, because it really soothes down your nervous system. Also, we can have fun in nature. We don't have to go on these like mega ski trips all the time, but it could be just outside my door, me and Wolfie will play for 20 minutes. You just want to be thinking, how can I connect with nature on a way that aligns with my future self? Instead of thinking of this desired future version of yourself so far in the distance, you want to be thinking, what can I do to actually embody them today? They don't have to be so far off. Maybe your future version spends 20 minutes every day in nature. You can do that tomorrow. You could do that tonight. This is how we want to start to think. That is my 7-step code to peak performance. Do we have any questions, any thoughts? Thank you for writing that. When we are high achievers, we often think that progress comes in doing. But when we're looking at the mindset and brain work, we're thinking about the life and the version of ourselves we want to create and step into. A lot of the progress can come from thought. It can come from walking out in nature with no purpose but to think about things. It's actually a really important part of our journey, and part of peak performance is to think and not necessarily do. Before we wrap up, then, could you give me one thing that you found interesting or insightful from today's remembering small steps is okay, will lead to progress? Yes. I'm a big fan of the small steps. When you realize how much of a 1% change can make, it's quite outstanding. I was really surprised. That 1% change was my key to my recovery. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for coming.